everyone, and welcome to another edition of my blog. Today we're going to be talking about how to make a grain-free granola, or muesli as it's called in Europe. Now, why do I make it grain-free? Mostly because we have a lot of food sensitivities to grains, and also we're trying to boost our immune system, so we want high amounts of omega-3s. And of course the nuts and seeds are going to have more omega-3s. So this is a granola or muesli that is all about nuts and seeds. I use some chia seeds, you can use flax seeds, I also use some whole hemp hearts, and of course all different types of nuts. I will be using some hazelnuts, some pecans, some macadamia nuts, some Brazil nuts, because you want those minerals like zinc and selenium, especially from Brazil nuts. And I'm also going to be doing some slivered almonds. Now with almonds, you could just use regular almonds and not the blanched almonds. However, if you do that, you want to soak them overnight for 8 to 12 hours, and then you wash them off and you want to dehydrate them. You can use a dehydrator or you can just use your oven. And then you're going to chop them up, of course, to make the granola, the muesli. Now the reason why you do that is because the amino acids or the proteins in the almonds or any other nuts that have the little skin over them contain phytates, and the phytates make it less able for us to absorb the amino acids or the proteins, or to break them down and utilize them. So when you soak them and then you dehydrate them, you've gotten rid of the phytates. In addition, I also like adding a little bit of coconut flakes, and I like the large coconut flakes. And of course you can add anything you'd like. I like usually doing some lemon rind or some tangerine. Tangerines are not available all year. So what I'll do is when I do have them, I dry the rind and then I'll chop them up slowly, or I'll chop them up small pieces, and then you can use them in your scones. You guys sometimes will put them in my brownies. You can add them to your salads, and in this case we're going to be adding it to the muesli. I'm probably going to do lemon today, but remember you can do anything you want, or you can add any type of a dried skin from a fruit that you would like. We're also going to do dried fruit. I'm going to be doing some chopped up dried apricots as well as some cranberries. Depending on what glycemic load you want, you're going to decide what type of a dried fruit you're going to add. And remember, you can add any nut and seed that you'd like. You could also make it with quinoa flakes. I didn't have any today, so I'm not going to be adding quinoa flakes. Now the thing about quinoa is that it's not really a grain, it's a seed. And so you could add it. The thing is that nowadays, because quinoa has been grown next to fields that grow a lot of grains, there is that possibility of cross-pollination, so that we may actually have quinoa that's acting more like a grain, but traditionally it's really a seed, so you could add that as well. Now the way I do it is I chop everything up, and I'll take you through the process, and then I will put it on a baking sheet. I like using some parchment paper, and you're going to be adding something to help it clump. I will use honey, but I use very little amounts of honey. You could add more if glycemic load isn't an issue for you. But if you're trying to cut down on sugar, then you want to use very little. We're also going to use some coconut oil. I'm going to melt it, and then we'll add it to help mix it all together. And now with this, you can use it once you make it. You can use it up to 2 weeks. You could use it longer if you put it in a glass jar, which is what I usually do. Keep it in a glass jar that's nice and sealed. You can refrigerate it. You could even freeze it if you like. You can add it to your salads. You can do it as a cereal alike. So your granola, like a typical granola, which you can add to your kefir or your yogurt or your non-dairy milk. Onward. So here I just added slivered almonds, a little bit of chia seeds, and also the chopped up, kind of roughly chopped pecans. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the Brazil nuts, the hazelnuts, And here I just chopped up some organic apricots. They're delicious. And then I'll be adding that to the mixture. And I'm also going to add a couple more ingredients. Namely, it's going to be some pumpkin seeds and also most likely, I need to look in the cupboard to see what else I have, but some whole hemp hearts, I'm hoping. So these are my roughly chopped Brazil nuts, and depending on the area of Brazil where the Brazil nuts are from, they may be higher or lower in selenium. So I don't put too much just in case it's from an area that's really rich, and they may have up to 150 micrograms per 2 Brazil nuts. So this is then added to my mixture, and you see I have already added the chopped up apricots, and now we'll be adding the Brazil nuts, and then we're going to add more of the seeds. And there's that. You may think I'm crazy, but I love mixtures, so I'm going to add also a little bit, not too much, of my cranberries. Next are my roughly chopped macadamia nuts, go in the mix. And then I'm also going to be adding some coconut flakes, large coconut flakes, which I love. Next I'm going to add on the pumpkin seeds. Don't you just love pumpkin seeds? They're high in fiber. They're also very rich in protein, and it's a pretty well absorbed protein. And they are just so good for you. And I actually like usually putting quite a bit of them in, and I don't chop them. They're not that small, they're not that big either, but to me they're just the perfect size. And then we're going to add the coconut flakes next. These are some whole hemp hearts. I already put some on, but I'm putting a little bit more on. Doesn't that just look lovely? You can add a little bit of honey for this. I probably would only add about a tablespoon. I'm really chintzy with the honey. This is some fresh local honey. It's a little bit crystallized. So I'm just going to be patient and wait for it to come out. We really put very little, but it is the honey that helps it clump. So sometimes when you put less, mostly because I'm trying to do a low glycemic load, when you add less, then it won't clump as well. I use more of the oil, so I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of coconut oil and only about 1 tablespoon of the honey. So now I've added the honey, and now I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin organic coconut oil. I've melted it, and then it comes my funnest favorite part, which is you get to mix it. Sometimes I do it with my hands. This time I'm using a spoon. And once you have it nicely mixed, because it's the honey and the extra virgin coconut oil that's going to help you to have it nice and clumpy. So I'm just mixing it as well as I can. And then it goes into the oven at about 250. Actually, initially, I do it at 375 for about 10 minutes. And then I mix it again and put it on 250 for another 10 minutes. And then I look and see. You don't want it to burn. And especially because I added the fruit already, you want to make sure that it doesn't burn, because it's much quicker to burn once you've added the fruit. Sometimes I'll add the fruit later. Because this was pretty chunky and the cranberries were pretty big, I opted for doing it this way. Oh, there is one thing that I forgot to add that I'm going to add right now, and those are my spices. So I'm adding just a little bit of cinnamon. You can add as much as you'd like. Of course, cinnamon is a great antioxidant. It's also great as a modulator of insulin resistance. It helps the insulin actually get inside the cell, working on the GLUT4 receptor. And next I'm going to add a little bit of nutmeg, because I am I love spices, and I try to add as many as we can, and I love some fresh nutmeg. So you see it's in the whole little round piece the way it grows, and I love to just sprinkle it right on top. Love that fresh smell. So good for you. You could add cardamom, you could add clove. You have to be careful with clove, of course, add a little bit at a time because clove can be pretty astringent, and a little bit goes a long way. And one other thing that I like adding that I haven't added yet is a little bit of lemon zest. So we'll do that next, and then we'll be done. So about a lemon zest of a half a lemon. Doesn't have to be much. I love also doing dried tangerine, but I had some fresh lemon, so I decided to use that this time. And you're basically just adding a little bit of limonene, which is great for your kidneys, and just a little difference in flavor. I love it when I bite into my granola and I have like an explosion of flavors in my mouth. It is just one of the funnest things that I can do as far as food is concerned, and I am a total foodie. Okay, so now this is going in the oven, and I'll show it to you what it looks like when in 10 minutes when it's time to turn it. So 325 for 10 minutes. So we are at the 10-minute mark, and here it is in the oven. And you can see it could stand to be there just a little longer, but I'm going to mix it and then leave it on for an additional, do another 15 minutes and then recheck. So we just kind of mix it. And you can see it's not clumping a lot because, of course, I did not add a lot of honey. You could add more, and you make your own, and you would clump a little bit more. And here what you're doing is you're just mixing it so it gets evenly heated through and through. And some areas are not drier than others. The smell, it's just amazing. You can really smell the cinnamon. You can also add ginger, was the other thing, and I didn't add it this time, but I often do. Okay, and for another 15 minutes. So another 15 minutes has gone by, and I did not lower the oven. I left it at 325 because I put it in the higher rack, and now it's done. And you can see how the coconut is a little bit toasted. It smells so good. And most of the nuts are a little toasted. You could leave it a little longer and make it even a little toastier, but I like it just the way it is. Because then you run the risk of burning it, and we don't want to do that. So voila, there you have it. One thing I didn't say, but I'll say it now, is I usually then wait for it to cool down, and then I put it in glass jars, those airtight ones, and you can freeze it, but even if you don't, it will last a good 2 weeks. So here is the finished product. It's already been cooled, and you can see the different colors, right? So this is actually a healthy granola because it's grain-free, it's high in omega-3s. Remember, we have pumpkin seeds, we have chia seeds, so it's high in protein, and it's varied. We have different colors, and remember that everything that comes with different colors gives you different phytonutrients, different antioxidants, right? Different polyphenols. So we have the green from the pumpkin seeds, we have the orange, for example, from the apricots, and we have the red from the cranberries, and then we have a varied sort of in between from the toasted almonds to the toasted pecans, you name it. And because this is all with nuts, they're very healthy fats. You can then add this to yogurt, for example. You could do it with a nut-free milk. You can even add it to your salads if you'd like. Sometimes I'll sprinkle in my soup, particularly like a carrot or a pumpkin soup. but you can just eat it by itself, just like this. It's a healthy snack as well as a breakfast, for example, or in addition to anything else. Now, I particularly like eating it as my dessert. Believe it or not, it makes also a great dessert. So I urge you to make your own. It's homemade, all organic ingredients, and it is healthy. It's going to help boost your immune system in these days where we really want to have the utmost robust and healthy immune system. So good luck to you, and remember, it's not that difficult. Remember, at the end, you will have the recipe so that you can then make this. And of course, I'm constantly adding and inventing, but this recipe will be published in my upcoming cookbook. So it will be copyrighted, but I am sharing it with you because I want you to be able to experience this. And it's not that difficult to make. In conclusion, there's a couple things I left out about the importance of this homemade grain-free granola. It is rich in magnesium because you have the magnesium from the almonds, from the macadamia nuts, but especially from the pumpkin seeds. It's also rich in zinc. It's going to be high in potassium and of course low in sodium. It's high in fiber, and not just the fiber from the chia seeds, which from a tablespoon of chia seeds you can get up to 6 grams of fiber, but is also high in protein from the nuts as well as from the chia seeds. So you're getting a wide range of color and nutrition, both in terms of protein, so your macronutrients, as well as your micronutrients or the trace minerals. Now there's one other thing that I haven't mentioned that I find is particularly important when you're making your own and when you're including all this different color. And that is that each ingredient that is a different color gives you a different phytonutrient in sort of the whole phytonutrient spectrum. So you're getting your fiber, you're getting your protein, and you're getting your essential trace minerals. And I added some spices, right, which we didn't really talk about. So I added nutmeg and cinnamon. And remember that spices work on decreasing inflammation and lowering nuclear factor kappa beta. They also work on lowering your insulin resistance. If your insulin resistance, or decreasing your ability to become insulin resistant. And they decrease generalized inflammation, but also some more specific inflammation by working on the kinases, which are a way that cells communicate with each other and produce or lower inflammation. In this case, we would be lowering inflammation. So just imagine all the different things that you're affecting by making your own grain-free, homemade, organic granola. So you can also visit my website at www.drtindade.com. For other tips, you can join my newsletter, and my recipe will be there as well.